Every year, right on cue, GCSE results day hits, and with it comes this huge wave of headlines. But this year, the numbers are telling two completely different stories at the exact same time. So let's cut through all that noise and find out what's really going on with the 2025 results. You've probably seen this number splashed all over the place, 23%. That's the percentage of students who got the top grades, a 7 or an A and above. And hey, on the surface, that looks like a success story, right? It's even a little bit better than last year. But that number, it really doesn't tell you the whole story. Because then you see this number, 41.7%. And what's that? Well, that's the percentage of older students who failed their maths reset. And it's right here, in the gap between these two figures, that the real and honestly much more complicated story of this year's results starts to unfold. Okay, so first things first. Let's look at the positive side of things. The headline news, that story of achievement and progress that you saw in all the initial reports. So yeah, the number of students hitting those top grades has ticked up a little bit from last year. It's not a huge jump, but it's a real notable increase. It kind of suggests that for the highest achieving students, the system is working. It's that steady improvement that always makes for a good headline. And it's not just the people at the very top. The overall standard pass rate, that's getting a grade 4 or higher, is sitting at a pretty solid 70.4%. So the vast majority of students are hitting that essential baseline. But this is where the good news story starts to get a lot more complicated. Because, yeah, there's another, much tougher side to this whole story. While younger students are celebrating, there's a huge group of older learners facing a totally different reality. And it's a reality that a lot of critics are now calling a full-blown crisis. Just look at the difference here. It's absolutely staggering. You've got that healthy overall pass rate of over 70%, but then you look at the pass rate for students who are retaking maths, and it plummets to a shocking 17%. That one comparison just says it all, doesn't it? It shows this massive gap in who the system is actually working for. And look, this isn't just some statistical blip that we found. Educators, commentators, they're using this exact phrase, a growing reset crisis, to describe what they see as a serious, systemic failure to help the students who need a second shot at these really important qualifications. The raw numbers behind this crisis are just stark. You've got over 41% failing their maths resets and nearly 40% failing English. And these aren't just numbers on a page. They represent tens of thousands of students, often 17 or older, who are just trying to get the qualifications they need to move on with their lives, to college, an apprenticeship, or a job. But the divisions, they don't stop there. When you really dig into the data, another story starts to pop out, and it's a persistent one. It's a story of deep-seated inequality, where your chances of success can seriously depend on where you happen to live and even your gender. I mean, the regional divide is so clear. In London, more than 28% of students got top grades. But if you go up to the Northeast, that number drops to under 18%. That's a massive 10 percentage point gap, and it proves that geography still plays this powerful and pretty troubling role in how well you do in school. Okay, but there is one piece of genuinely good news in all of this. While girls do still outperform boys, the gap between them has actually narrowed to just 5.1 percentage points. That is the smallest that gap has been since the year 2000, which is a really significant, kind of historic shift. So what are students actually choosing to study these days? The data on what subjects they're signing up for gives us this fascinating peek into the future, and it shows some really interesting new trends in what young people actually want to learn. Now, this is interesting. For the first time ever, Spanish has officially overtaken French as the most popular foreign language at GCSE. At the same time, we're seeing a bit of a dip in some of the traditional humanities and sciences, but a definite rise in subjects like statistics and music. It's a really clear signal that student interests are starting to shift. So with all of these complex trends, the good, the bad, the unequal, what happens next? Well, as you can imagine, these results have kicked off a really fierce debate about the future of secondary education itself. Experts are arguing that just tinkering with the exams isn't going to fix these deep problems. They're calling for big, fundamental reform. A lot of the focus is on improving teaching way earlier, back in Key Stage 3. The whole idea is to stop students from getting discouraged long before they even walk into that final exam hall. And while those big philosophical debates are happening, some practical innovations are already being tested out on the ground. This year, for instance, saw the pilot of a digital education record app. It's designed to give students their results right on their phones and make enrolling in their next step, whatever that is, way smoother and faster. So, after all of that, what's the takeaway? It really boils down to this one central question. Do these results, with their rising top grades and that narrowing gender gap, signal success? Or do the deep regional divides and that heartbreaking reset crisis show us a system that is fundamentally under stress? The answer, it seems, depends entirely on which